It just seems odd that we were using them and then all of a sudden we're not using them. And everybody in here's got the same attorney that seems to be the problem, so.
Yeah.
Sir? We'll go back to the basics. What's the $60 a year for?
You put it with the taxes, and then you avoid all.
What is it for? We've got, what, 2,200 homes out here. Every home getting hit for $60, $132,000 a year. What does that $60 a year do? And the reason I'm going to ask that is that the first year I paid it every year. I called Kingdom Management, or the management company, when I moved in 2003, and said, what is this for? And the lady told me, we mail you stuff. I said, the only thing you mail me is a bill, once a year. And I said, I'd be better off sending you 12 stamps and 12 envelopes, and you send me something every month, because I'm paying you $60 a year to mail me a bill.
Yeah.
What does the $60 do?
That's a whole separate question. What it does is that we have a budget, we're an organization, and we provide services such as the Clay County Patrol Officers. That's one of the services we provide. Okay. We do force cuts, so it's getting better. But you know, in the heat of battle, all we are trying to do is knock down those weeds and keep the place looking as good as we could, because we can't, unfortunately, we can't turn on the water, we can't do major maintenance just because we don't have the funds. So a lot of our money went into a force cut program, basically paying a guy to mow, and Rob was instrumental in that. He goes around and inspects with his son on the weekends and find those high lots. And we,
so to summarize, you all enforce the covenants of the individual land.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. But when I originally asked the question,
well, that was a different management company, and that's why they're not our management company.
If I could, I know some people are going to have some more questions about this, but to get ours, we had a couple of other questions we'd like to ask that we came up with as a result of our investigation into this. According to your August 2012 minutes, or possibly sooner, I'm sorry, come on, you all engaged with a property rental agreement with On the Move property rental. Are any of you all associated with anybody from Kingdom Management or the board of?
It's my husband's company. He came to the board meeting.
Okay. So your company, Kingdom Management, you're also affiliated with On the Move Rentals?
Can you describe?
Were you all aware of that at the time? Whenever?
I don't call them.
Okay.
Can you describe that relationship and how that works in regards to deed properties that were foreclosed on?
That was my next question. If I may, is you all entered into an agreement where you deed properties to them for houses that have been foreclosed and that did not auction?
What happens is
they did auction and nobody bought it.
yeah,
They went to auction with nobody.
Yeah, it goes through the foreclosure process. Yeah, so it goes through the
you all deed it to not her, but to
Her husband.
We've done
property owners.
yeah, we've
Why
done
is there homeowners were not tenants?
because there's no value.
Can you speak up a little, Sean?
So
That's not true.
Property value.
this is what we're doing with that. So they go through foreclosure, they go to the steps, and no one purchases them. And then for $100, if I'm wrong, for $100, which is just some minimum fee, the association takes back the deeds. So we have now the association has title to a property that is still subject to the first mortgage.
So the lien holder, to the bank,
To the bank. So $150,000 mortgage on the house, and for whatever reason it went through the court steps and no one wanted it.
Okay. So then it's deeded over to On the Move. Deed subject.
Oh, so we used with On the Move. We identified 4 properties. Before then, we did what, Riverside.
River City has bought some of your properties.
Yeah.
Mara has bought some of your properties.
So these are investors, and they come in and they get the title, which allows them access to the property. And what they're having talked to some of these guys, what they do is they're betting that they can put a renter in there and get rental income before the bank shows up. And now some of the more aggressive ones, they're actually they're out of a lawyer's office. And so the minute they grab these titles, this bank of lawyers goes to work immediately on the banks, and we call defends the title. So the mortgage company's trying, if and when the mortgage company finally says, okay, I want my house, they start defending the mortgage. And I think the first step is they say, okay, show me all your paperwork that shows it's really your house. And in the meantime, they're holding this property and putting renters in it. And
They're going to be
And pocketing the money.
evicted as soon as that property.
Yes.
Who's getting the rental income?
yeah, they're getting the rental income.
They're pocketing it.
Why
The
do we put
investor-
So are they doing that on behalf of us?
No.
Because the homeowners association was deeded the house for $100?
No,
No.
we've now deeded it to them.
What we as a board talked about is these ones that end up on our steps, they're just, some of them are very bad condition, falling off, whatever, stucco falling off, they're weeds. When these guys, yeah, one of them,
Understand people raising their house.
yeah. So what these investors do is once an investor comes in, now, although they are still subject to the first mortgage, once they hold the title, they're now subject to all the association rules. So if they do it without us, let's say it never makes it to us and they hold one of these, they're now the title holder. They're just like any of you. When we look at the documents, they're the new owner. And if the lawn's crappy, we send letters to them. So these ones that make it to us, the one we turned over to the Riverside and the four we turned over to the On the Move, we turned those over, and the first thing we said is you need to bring these up to community standards.
Did you all give them money to help do that?
On the first one we didn't. On the second one, we designated up to $20,000 to allow them, because one had some massive stucco repairs, and to fix those up, including the sod, the exterior. So basically, you got a good-looking house now. And now we didn't spend anything, because all that money is through an exterior maintenance assessment attached to the property. So that when the lien holder does come back, in order to clear the title, the association will be made whole. But what we've done, and this was our discussion, what we've done is we've taken a building that would be sitting there rotting because no one wanted it, and now we have someone come in, fix it up, put a tenant in there, and now the person to the left and the person to the right has a sodded landscape, taking care of house, and we felt as a board that added value.
Do they disclose to the tenant?
Yes, they absolutely, yeah. The leases are like that big. The leases have to disclose to the tenant that the bank can come along at any moment, and once the bank demands the property, they have to leave. And usually, not some of the investors I've seen, they actually sweeten the pot and they say, hey, listen, this is what kind of property you're in. If this happens, I'll give you $300 towards moving expenses. So that was the board's thought. That's what's going on. And although money was put forward, it hasn't been expended. It's a placeholder. We will be made whole on all those as the lien
How
holder
is
comes
it a
back.
placeholder if it went and was used who paid to bring the exterior up to this?
Because it's an exterior maintenance assessment. So let me just say.
Is there another lien on the property?
What's that?
Is there another lien on the property?
Like a secondary lien on the
Yeah,
property?
yeah. Our exterior maintenance assessments are lienable. So let's say it's $1,000.
So it's low risk.
What's that?
It's low risk.
Yeah, very low risk.
Okay.
So let's say it's $1,000 repair, okay, to the exterior. So we do the repair, and it's assessed as an exterior maintenance assessment on that property for $1,000. Okay, so the repair is done, cash is spent, but the association puts out $1,000, but in return, we receive an exterior maintenance assessment for $1,000 on that property.
When it comes back,
When the bank comes to clear that title,
but until
and
then,
I'm not a lawyer,
down to
so
$1,000.
but when the bank comes to clear that title, they're going to have to clear those exterior maintenance assessments because those are lienable and attached to the title. So the only way you can get a clear title is to
Make the homeowners association whole.
make the homeowner association whole. So what have we done in essence? We've taken an eyesore, we've made it whole, we've made it livable, we've made it so it's not falling apart for what is a very minimal risk, because we see that in the future we're going to be made whole.
And you're disclosing this to tenants that are
Yes,
in that property.
tenants, yes.
That is fully disclosed.
You have to, you cannot.
Got a copy.
Yeah, and again, that's not us, that's the investors doing it.
Well, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the others. There may be some more stuff
I
that
just had a
maybe
quick
we
question
missed.
that goes with that.
And then I'll work to the.
Thank you all.
Was
Thank you.
on the move the only option to use?
The-
Or was it more favoritism because Sherry's involved?
I think it's the last resort, nobody bid on
You
it.
could have.
River City didn't want it to report.
All of this group of investors that we know are out there, none of them wanted it. So that's why it made it to the court step and it went out.
If he only comes in if it defaults to the association and nobody else wants it.
Right.
Then he feels, we manage these neighborhoods, we want to clean them up. Let's think out of the side of the box and offer an option of how to take this property off the association's hands and make it look better until the bank puts a good homeowner in it. So he steps in as a last resort. We don't bid online. We could, we have that right, but we decided he's not going to bid online in Duval or Clay. He does no bidding. If something defaults to the association, then he'll bring an offer to the table.
Did anybody think at any time, I mean, you guys are obviously fine, intelligent individuals, did anybody think or say there may be a potential conflict of interest? Say no. Yes, there could be. We probably shouldn't do this.
There is no conflict. Nobody else.
Yes,
wants it.
there is.
They go directly to your husband.
off of it, and all transactions with you should be an
Well, that's a question. This sounds like, the
You're.
lady is acting like this is a charity.
One at a time, ma'am.
First of all, it is a conflict of interest because she owns one, her husband owns the other. It's a conflict of interest. Second of all, even if it were going on, you have said we will loan you up to $20,000 to rehab these properties. This is money that our association has. That's a separate business. We shouldn't be loaning money to somebody else without any interest. Even if we were, why would they not be paying it back with the rental income that they are making?
They are.
They are.
You said it comes back once the lien.
There's a whole
I'll
payment
pay for
structure.
the next 10 years on a loan, and I'll pay
No, there's a whole repayment structure. So as the money comes in, first the attorney bill is paid, then the association is. So there is a whole, the money is made, the association will not be made, as long as there's rent coming in, the association is paid. We made it so the lawyer's fees get, or the rehab, but the investor risk.
Can I stop you for just a second? Because you said there's no risk, but there is risk in fronting the money. If they're a company that does this and is willing to take a risk to make the money they're going to make on it before a bank forecloses, which we all know takes a very long time, especially if an attorney has taken it out from underneath somebody with an HOA payment not being made, you shouldn't be fronting the money to a business to do that. They should front the money, and that's who they should be repaid to, because they're
Four
collecting.
properties went through the entire process, and we took possession because no one wanted them. So there was all these investors that we know about, no one wanted them. So either something was going to be done, or they were going to sit there, and the stucco was going to fall off, and they were rocked. That is why we made the decision we made. Now, Is it a conflict of interest? Sherry, did you?
No, we've asked attorneys. He said, hey, you know, as a citizen.
Good point.
So, are we gonna?
Money, you have to ask if this right. It's not right.
Yeah. Okay. So, are we going to do any of this more in the future? No, I think we'll. I think I see a concern in the community that we won't do that anymore.
What about the houses, I'm sorry, what about the houses that are sitting vacant? It's been vacant for 6 years, it's around the corner from me. And when I call Kingdom Management, I'm told that the house is in bankruptcy, the guy is military, we can't really do anything about it, it's tied up. That house has a pool in the backyard's a jungle, the gate frequently falls off, this is over on Canopy Oaks. I don't even want to think about what the inside of that house looks like. Why can't you guys do something about that?
What we do is we do it, like I said, with the exterior. We can't, that property, Sherry, the title is tied up in that.
It
This
is,
the
the
military.
bankruptcy.
So,
Exactly.
no one,
Fees are just accruing and accruing.
Okay, so is the bank that owns that property not accountable to keep it looking proper and not a safety hazard for our children?
no.
That's a good use for an attorney right there.
Yeah, I mean,
Because with the pool in the back,
now you're into the heart of the whole process. These banks are not banks because they're stupid. They do not take these properties until they can liquidate them and get them off their books. As long as this military member is on the title, in bankruptcy, there's nothing we can do. We will never get title to this, so we can't get somebody in there to do the stucco and do it up. That property just sits there. All we can do with that property is exterior maintenance assessments. The weeds get high, we whack them down. During the winter months, we go in and we put mulch in. We do trim the bushes or whatever. We do everything we can to keep the outside of that house looking as good as we can.
But sir, my husband's a lieutenant commander of the United States Navy, okay? And I understand chain of command, okay? Why can't you all go to this military member's chain of command? I mean, it happens all the time.
Yes.
Service members get their paychecks garnished all the time. Why can't this service member's paycheck be garnished?
So you want us to call
Why
2,000
can't?
people's employees?
No. I'm just saying.
Yes, rather than you're a lawyer, yes. Garnish wages, rather than
You
suing us
identify
for our
these
loans.
properties, go and you know the member is military, go to their command.
You're talking about 100 what he said earlier was to be correct, because 2,100, 2,000 people paid their assessments, did they not?
That's incorrect, actually. 'Cause
Well, but you
68
could.
percentile, so 1,500 people paid their assessment, or their information.
Right, true.
So that's
616 people did not pay.
The exaggeration was the point.
That
It's not 2,000 people we're asking to call, it's the ones that are.
What was the number at very year last year people paid? Wasn't it like
My
80
other
something?
It was 89 something.
How many military members do you have who are
We
in
don't keep track
bankruptcy?
of
I
what you
don't
do.
know who's military.
They don't
Yeah.
care. But you're telling me this house
about the
is
$60
military.
fee.
But
Would
we
they
do
do
know
that?
So we're trying to address this concern in our neighborhood.
We wouldn't know where they work and what they're doing.
Okay, well,
Who they're changing.
So on that issue, like I said, that title is tied up. The only thing the association can do is through exterior maintenance assessments, we try to keep it looking as good as possible on the outside.
okay.
If it's not looking good on the outside, call in, get it logged, it gets on the sheet, and if it's tall weeds or whatever, we'll get out there. So like, this is where I say, if you're not satisfied, make a call. A week later, you're still not satisfied, make another call.
What about the swimming pool for that? Right now, the gate's off.
If that
Call
is,
code
that is,
enforcement.
yeah, that,
Call Clay County Code
you
Enforcement.
can call code enforcement on that. That particular item, we'll go in there and fix that gate with exterior maintenance assessment.
Is this not something the management company could do?
Ma'am?
Some basic questions. How many homes did we send to collection that were foreclosed on at the end of 2012? Because in the minutes, it only shows up to the third quarter. And your minutes said, that there were 100 delinquent accounts were sent to collection attorney, but then there's a whole chart, and all the numbers do not add up. But if you added the thing at the bottom, in the first third quarter alone, we sent 117 homes to foreclosure. In the first third quarter of last year.
A lot of them, when they get that notice, pay immediately.
I understand that, but they were threatened with foreclosure, 117.
You guys are fine with that. I mean,
That's
you're my neighbor.
Besides all that, now we come here tonight,
I think
and
that
you
comes to the
said,
root of what a lienable assessment means.
Is that-
It means that it's a payment to a group
that has to support the rest of the group.
I understand.
It's not like an electric bill. You don't pay your electric bill, your neighbors don't suffer. You don't pay your bill, your neighbors suffer from the lack of force cut, the lack of fixed fences, the lack.
So you're saying you're fine with a $60 foreclosing on someone's house for $60?
Fundamentally,
That's disproportionate.
I didn't write these documents.
No, but we have actual to change
But
that.
you're
We do,
doing
we have
it.
90.
And
You have the ability
we're going
to
to request
manage
change.
it.
You can get,
Because I don't want my neighbor put out of his house because letters are not sent appropriately
what are the numbers?
from the building. I don't necessarily like my neighbor, so.
Yeah.
Because part of what I'm trying to show here is that we have not been given any reason to trust what you all said.
Okay.
You said earlier that you have not sent anything to Tankle since 2010, you said?
11.
2012, we started using factory law.
Because in August of 2012, you signed Tankle Master Collection Agreement. What was that?
Oh, that's just an updated legal agreement. We sign that every 6 months for
But
our.
what is it? What is it? What does it say?
It states that he is doing the collections process and the steps that he takes.
So you have to keep this current because you still have collections
Yeah,
accounts
every
with
6
them.
months.
Yeah, he has those accounts that we originally gave him.
Okay, well, are you aware as the board that there have been people that did not pay supposedly in 2010 that on their word did not receive a late statement, did not receive anything saying they did not pay it until it went to collection, got a letter from an attorney. And they end up paying $2,400 almost 2 years later. Almost 2 years later. Because that's when they
Statute of
finally got a
limitations
letter.
requires them to foreclose within 2 years. Otherwise,
And they paid 2011, 2012, now they've paid 2013, and yet they're paid, they have to pay $2,400 for $60 that was due 3 years ago.
That was paid late.
But that's not the board's fault.
That is.
You're doing this, letting Kingdom Management not bill us.
They enable these people to conduct shopping.
Because there's other.
When you sign the paperwork on your
Financial gain
house,
for keeping.
Yes, I
you're
agree.
going to pay this every
I-
year.
But it also goes to the not using the balance forward accounting method. You receive a bill, you send a bill for 2010, somebody doesn't pay it, you send a bill for 2011, it should now say that your balance is $120, not $60.
Yeah.
So then they
Like I said-
bill, no, it's accounting practice, right?
It goes,
That's general accounting practice, yes.
it exits, and again, I'm saying something wrong, it exits Kingdom
It
Management.
exits them, but I'm telling you, she's saying it exited them in April, and the people didn't get a letter about it until November of 2012.
So I got a question real quick. A lot of people here
Well,
have
that would
the
be-
Tankle thing, right?
Yeah, it sounds like
But
Tankle.
that's saying you don't use Tankle. Does the new attorney do the same thing? Are you doing the same foreclosure proceedings?
Oh, I was the attorney last year. I'm last year, I already paid mine.
Yeah, more or less, the new attorney uses the same statutes and goes through the same
It's just not
process.
Tankle.
It's just not Tankle. It's a new lawyer, he does
Can
the
you
same
not
thing.
remove those from Tankle? Is there no way to take
Yeah,
those
would-
collection accounts back from Tankle?
Would the
if they
board,
don't want you to
at this
collect?
point, take the accounts that Mr. Tinkle still has in his possession and remove them from him,
Yes.
and then have those people rebuild properly? I know that somewhere along the line, he's gonna say, hey, you owe me because I've been jerking around with this thing. That's bullshit. Okay? I think you have a responsibility to pull at least what he has away from him, because none of us have any faith in him, and I don't think that you should. Okay? I'm not going to ask for raising of hands, but there are just so many. There's just the other thing is as far as verifying. I know we have this list, and I brought this up before. There has to be some way of verifying that someone has actually sent out something to those. Well, you say that, you know. But someone's handed you a list and said, "Yeah, I called all these numbers, I mailed all these things." How do I know that Janie isn't going to wash them? Goes, yeah, I'll throw that page away.
The same way they don't know if you just threw it away because you didn't
They
want
send the bill.
Well, Okay, look.
Paying $60 and a $25 late fee.
Well,
No
when you start talking about
lawyers,
taking someone's
no
property,
thousands of
there has to be a little more
This
than
phase two. Why can't we get them here on phase one? That's what I think we need. How do we get a new company in and out? Because they get $25, people get $2,800, $2,400, $5,000, $4,000.
Ridiculous.
And if we as an association were to charge a $25 late fee, then we could afford to send a letter with certified return receipt even, and not pay a penny for it, because we're getting a $25 late fee, and at least half of those would be paid. Maybe the half that people.
What's the difference?
Typically, the collection, but typically the management.
What's the difference?
And late fees.
What's the difference of our, and I'm having a discussion, I'm not handing up here. What's the difference of us sending a letter and a lawyer sending it? Why is it
Because it's not $600.
It has a running invoice tally and it's a reasonable fee.
Why is our letter going to reach them?
Certified, sir.
Certified return receipt.
That's what the lawyers do.
Yeah, for $300 to $600.
That's a problem. Why is phase two different from phase one if we're all one?
Thank you.
Why are they treated different? We're all one community. Why do they get the option of $25 late fee and everybody else in here in phase two gets the option of $2,500?
It's the management company.
Yes, it is.
We managed by the same company.
Have you driven through phase
Those are two
two?
separate.
And are you happy with the way the place looks?
Hold on a second.
They aren't any worse than we are.
Everybody, please. We've got to keep it to one person at a time so we can have a conversation.
And the answer is,
The answer is, the gentleman asked, why are there two different communities? When they did phase one, phase two, Oakleaf Plantation, the villages, they decided to put them under two different umbrellas. I don't know why. They also
He didn't ask why they're two different communities, he asked why business is done one way there and a different way here.
Because it's two different.
And that's because there's a different board over there. That's the answer that you're looking for.
And a different management company.
Well, the management company works for your board.
True.
It doesn't matter who the management company is. The management company works for your board.
True.
And if your board would stand up and tell your management company to stop treating you and your neighbors like this, this is a different story.
Your name?
Michael Rucker.
Michael Rucker from the west side, and
Yeah.
John
Keys.
He's the president from the west side.
Correct.
But let me say this.
The board works for us.
That's
Right.
And how
No, they're supposed to.
What's the process that you all got put in place?
Okay, every year we have an election. The initial board, the question is how's the board placed? Every year there is an election.
Has there been an official election since you've been in office?
There has not been a quorum. However, it's been the policy of this board that whoever gets the most votes gets in. We don't have to do that, but that's been the policy.
How many were on the nominating committee last year?
No one came up. The board served as the nominating committee.
How many were on the nominating committee?
The board served as the nominating committee.
I believe it said 2
in the minutes?
in the minutes. There has to be 3 according to the bylaws.
Has to be a member outside the board.
Next question.
Yes.
Kingdom Management, are they under contract? Do you pick them? Do we pick them?
The board hires Kingdom Management.
Is it just a yearly contract? Can it be terminated now? How does it work?
We can terminate them with 30 days notice. 30 days notice the management company can be terminated.
Who gets to put that vote in?
What's that?
Who gets to put that vote in if you want them voted out?
But before we
That
go,
would be the board.
I got a question though, because we're talking about getting rid of Kingdom Management now.
Yes.
I know there seems to be a lot of conflict of interest with it. I know there seems to be other options that people think are better, but the reality of it is it comes right back down to the board, and unless the board makes the righteous decision to say, we're not going to let the management companies turn people over to collections. Now look, we understand if somebody's not paying their mortgage, somebody's house is in foreclosure, they're not living in the property, that's a completely different situation. But when you're talking about a family with children getting a foreclosure letter over Thanksgiving, and they're gonna be put out of their house if they don't do something about it, for $60. That was 3 years ago. That was communicated with an attorney that they said, we'll look into it, and they don't get back to you. These are the kind of things you're not aware of and then you're not taking into account.